Hello, hello, Andrew. Thank you. Yes, well, that's my formation as a student was as a journalist, and then I work as a journalist in mass communication before I started driving through to spiritual work and channeling work exactly. I've been a channeling teacher for almost 10 years right now, trans channeling teacher. That's what I do. And I have taught people all through Latin America and also a couple of times in the US. So that's mainly my background. Oh, sure. Let me try to share the screen here then. Okay, so there it is. And so what I first of all, thank you for allowing me to present this here. I'm very happy and humble to be able to do this in such a place and setting. And please excuse me if my language is not as academic as the one you have in your presentations, because that's not mainly the way of my work. So what I'm trying to bring here is experiences of how trans channeling helps the balance of the psyche and discovery of the self. As I said, my background is not strictly Jungian. I have taken some small classes about Jungian thought, and I have read a lot, but I don't have the formality on it all the time. So first of all, what is trans channeling? And I want to read the definition by Dr. Elane Wabe from the Institute of Noetic Sciences, who has been making a lot of research, scientific research on it. And she says, channeling is the process of revealing information and energy not limited by our conventional notions of space and time that can appear receptive or expressive. And somehow, channeling evolves from mediumship and the work of Allan Kardec in the 1800s, 1850, and all the Spiritism movement, which mainly connected through trans channeling to deceased people. That was the main objective of that work. And Kardec was trying to understand how the world of the deceased worked by asking several different mediums the same question, and began receiving the same answer or very similar answers from different mediums in different settings. And so the spiritism work began growing in that way. The thing is that when that kind of work passed through America and into the US, mainly on the 20th century, many people started moving when they had these experiences of trans mediumship into not only getting in touch with such energies as only deceased people, but uh, there become to appear some angels, guides, and different sorts of encounters on the other side. So, in a way, the name channeling came up by one of the people having that experiences, which was Joe Roberts. She started channeling. She was an artist. She was a painter, and she started getting communications with a guy named Seth. And once, when asked about what she was doing, she described it as, uh, I change from one channel to the other, like when I'm on TV, watching TV. So then the word channeling got stuck on the spiritual circles of the New Age, and the term was coined in that way. Uh, what I've seen as I started teaching people in 2013. I began channeling myself uh, in a spontaneous way when I was 21 years old in the year 2001. And it was something that I couldn't really make an idea of what was happening to me at that moment. I approached several people on meditation sites here in Chile, trying to understand what was going on with me, and they said it was something normal, They showed me some channeled books, but no one really explained me what was going on. Only until 6 years later, in 2007, I found my channeling teacher in the United States. Her name is Pepper Lewis, and there, when I started taking classes with her, this thing that spontaneously came up to me, I was able to give it some form, and I was able to get into the trance by myself whenever I wanted and not when it just came about. And so I started working with her in that way. One of the things that happened pretty quickly when I was able to do this on my own volition was that it became very apparent to me that some of the beings that came were part of me speaking through me. So I remember approaching her and telling her, this is weird. It's like it's an inner character of myself talking through me." And she said, "You found that pretty quickly. That's kind of the secret of it. But people on the New Age and spiritual, alternative spiritual sides don't really like to hear it that way." So that was kind of the ticket that that bought me the possibility of her training me as a teacher. And when I started teaching, what I pretty quickly saw was that this happened to many people in the same way, but like she said, they really didn't like it when you put it that way. So they rather said that they were getting in touch with something bigger and outside of them, which was the case in some times, but mostly not. So when I started researching more about this, I found Jung, and then I found the links with active imagination, and it became pretty quickly to me apparent that they were really similar. What made me look at it was similar. I found Jung's work on the transcendent function and the kind of dangers he talks about of getting into altered state of consciousness, or in getting in touch with active imagination, and there were very similar to the dangers that we were talking about when we were teaching people how to channel. So Jung says the method therefore is not without its danger and should, if possible, not be employed except under expert supervision. And then he says one of the lesser dangers is that the procedure may not lead to any positive results, whereupon the patient gets caught in the sterile circle of his own complexes, from which he is in any case able to escape. A further danger, in itself harmless, is that the authentic contents may be produced, the patient evinces an exclusive aesthetic interest in them. So with those two dangers, uh, I I was able to do a link between them pretty quickly. And one of the things that I saw people doing very quickly all the time when they channel was that they literalized anything they will receive very quickly and very commonly. They will just not get in touch with the symbolic images or information coming through the channeling, which is as rich usually as when you just read them and try to make sense of them in a literal way. So then I got familiar with Grove's work, and yeah, with Grove's work, and there he says non-ordinary states of consciousness make possible the emergence to consciousness of unconscious material provided with a huge emotional charge. This process is the expression of great spontaneous healing potential and should be encouraged. Under those circumstances, the emotional and psychosomatic symptoms are not a problem to fight, but a sign of great healing effort from the organism that must be supported, encouraged, and completed. That's from his work with LSD and ayahuasca. So I started to see also that some of the information that was starting to come out with some of my students regarding the channeling had some potential of healing, and there were things coming up that they knew they had to solve somehow, but they weren't really ready to solve them. So before getting into how I went into try to help them do it, I want to tell a little bit the way I was taught about this. I was I was taught by my teacher there is a subconscious, but what is exactly subconscious? Because when I try to look into Jung's work, there's not such a term. You only get the unconscious. So then I found the idea of this collective consciousness that we had before the beginning of the 19th century, that was contained by the religious experience and the religious myth. So all of us have the same idea, the same stories, the same way of working inside. But when that cracked open, somehow the collective unconscious started pouring material running free into the individual consciousness. Now, this is where my research is still ongoing, in the sense that I haven't had my formal Jungian experience, or a formal degree in Jungian psychology, and I'm lacking a little bit of links to show it better to you. So I need to just put it in the way I experience it. And this material that started running free, in the way I started asking my own guides about it before I went into Jung with further detail. And what they said was that this unconscious material from the collective that started pouring through the individual minds had three main shadow energies coming into us, which were power, sex, and the feminine, which are the three great energies repressed by the religious collective consciousness. They didn't really like people having power. The church didn't really like people having sex, and they just didn't like the feminine energy at all. So the way I was taught about this by my guys was that all this unconscious collective energy has been pouring since the beginning of the cracking of this collective consciousness uh, container into us, and we are trying to manage it the best way that we can. So I know that I can find some relationships to it in Jungian material, but I haven't really been able to find it completely and exactly. And again, I'm sorry for not being able to do that before this lecture. So in that sense, this idea of the subconscious, in the way I was taught by my teacher, becomes a buffer of the personal stories. In a way, it's the way that I see it is the inner city where everything happens inside and we see in dreams. It's a personal story that now needs to be able to hold the inner narrative of who I am by myself and in an individual way, and not in the collective way we had before with religion. So it's like, instead of the religious function being able to uh, have a collective experience for us, now we have this religious function working by ourselves, which means we need to get in touch by ourselves with all the values, virtues, and even morality, and that creates a lot of hassle and struggles for the person. So in a way, that individual subconscious will have a collective part and an individual part, uh, along with the conscious and unconscious part, composed of stories I know I have and stories and I don't know I have. So the stories I know I have, I usually project them, but I see them in other people. The stories I don't know I have, it's shadow material which I project outside, and I don't know why it is there. Uh, so through all of this, I came to something that was very familiar with my students, that when someone came to my classes and that will say that they channel spontaneously, they will usually say that they have one of these two experiences. They will say that their channeling material will come with an idea of how the universe works, and or an idea of how their soul got to life, how they got to be incarnated. And this was the same with me at first when I had these spontaneous channelings back when I was 21 years old. So I began asking this question regularly to students. And the ones who came with a spontaneous experience, Most of them will have these similar ideas in their first channelings, and the ones which didn't have it, I said, well, what will happen if the ones that haven't gotten this spontaneous connection, what happens if I ask similar questions to that? What happens with them if that happens? The way I was seeing it is that these kind of questions order your inner narrative of how the spiritual, the religious function works inside, because it gives you some of the container that the religiosity and the church had with us through the collective, but now it's not there. So I was thinking and had this hypothesis of, if I made them channel something in relationship to that, then maybe that will help have some order in them with these questions. So I prepared a set of 5 questions, which I tried to make as symbolic as I could, because I found out that when I ask directly, the ego will just jump into the trance and the trance will be cut off. So the connection to what we were trying to get will have a conscious answer instead of an answer coming from deeper inside. So the questions were: what is mythology? How did my soul get to incarnate? Which is similar to the one I showed before. What is my life's mythology? What invisible forces rule the world? And what is my purpose? And those 5 questions needed to be answered in the same session, all together, one after the other. And what happened was that I started getting a lot of information about their own process of growing up, of how their inner container started getting set, to say it somehow, in the period of their childhood. So this is an example of one of the students. I will call her Clara here. And these are the answers she gave to these questions while channeling during a class. Now, I would like to point out to the second and the third. The second and the third are I'm sorry, I lost that. It's how did my soul get to incarnate, and what is my life's mythology, and how did my soul go to incarnate? The answer is, I see myself going down like Superman, and on the sides I see many people looking at me. I know they are part of my family, like a pure renewed energy ready to change what needs to be changed, to purify. However, it arrives with expectation at what will happen, which produces anxiety and anguish in you. And then, in the question of I want to say it correctly, what is my life's mythology? The answer is an inherited history of men abandoning, abusing, and belittling women. Given this, a powerful figure of feminine energy has been formed. I see an Amazon where the man has no place, warrior woman, but also healers, warriors, and magic. So when these answers came up, I went and asked her, what was the role of your father during your childhood? And she said he was not there. He abandoned us when we were very little. So in further asking her about the role of her father, she said that the masculine energy in her she found lacking all the time, and she had a lot of issues getting in touch with men and being able to approach them, even though she's married. But all of that came always as an expression of something that was there that she didn't have the tools to actually solve it. So with this happening in several and almost every of the students I asked these questions, I wanted to go a little bit deeper and further into what happens when I do different questions. So what I did was create a different set of questions in what I call with my students a channeling challenge. The channeling challenge was 14 days, each day answering one question. And they only got the question for that day, and they needed to send me the answers to that questions before the end of the day, and then they will get the next question for the next day. So they didn't know what the next question would be at any kind. And the idea of how I framed the questions was, again, trying to be as symbolic as I could. And here I I merged two main ideas. First, the idea of in the way of Joseph Campbell's hero's journeys. So the 14 questions were put together in a way that the whole journey will be completed, and also in the way that Stan Groves talk about the condensed experiences during the holotropic birth work, where he says when something comes up, you need to experience it completely so it doesn't get stuck, or you don't get stuck in the liminal part of the process. So one of my other hypotheses was what happens when I complete this process through 14 days with the person about one a specific topic about their lives. And then what I did was trying to convey in this specific challenge the archetypes from Robert Moore's Facing the Dragon book and lectures about the four different archetypes of the psyche. So these are the questions. So you can take a look at them. Is the first one is where is the king? The second one is what is the queen doing? The third is what is my mission? The fourth says challenge your inner guide. What does it tell you about the mission? The fifth, what does the giant in the enchanted forest tells you? Six, in the middle of the forest, a familiar from the mother's side appears. Channel him or her. What message does that he or she have for you? The next day, a familiar from your father's family appear in the middle of the forest. Channel and ask him what message does he or she have for you. Then you are lost in the forest and without resources. Channel what your guides tell you about emotions. Which of the two relatives do you listen to now? I'm sorry. Which of the two relatives do you listen to know what you should do? And channel him or her about it. Channel the message that the giant has for you as you leave the forest. And then on the 11th day, you leave the forest and enter the castle where the inner throne is. Before reaching the throne, you find a large room where there are statues of all relatives of both branches of your family tree. Channel what message does your guide have about it? Where does the family lineage continue? And then you enter the throne room, you observe it, channel what do you need to do to sit on the throne. And the last day from the throne setting there, observe yourself in this moment and channel a message from that sovereign self on the throne to you who are here now. Again, these questions, they only get one each day and they don't know which is the one coming the next day before they answer. And I want to show you a little bit of what the answers are from her. So this is the answer from the first day. The question is where is the king, and her answer is I hear a voice that tells me he is sleeping in the depths of your soul, our soul. There he has been lying for thousands of years, waiting to be awakened. I see a man in a fetal position, surrounded by a kind of uterus. The image is powerful. He is a grown man, but he has baby mannerisms. He seems to be ready to be born. It is seen that the place is already tight. He cannot stretch. He is uncomfortable, but he still continues to sleep. He disturbs me, and the image bothers me. So this is the very first image she has when she channels this question, and for me it's a very powerful image of the whole male consciousness and the whole male energy very stuck there, and even though it has grown, it's like it hasn't been born yet. So symbolically, it was a very strong correlation to what it was channeled before. Then in the second question, what is the queen doing? What I tried to do here with this question was send a little bit of a curveball to the ego, as trying to put a usually male energy idea of being doing things into what the queen was, so it got a little bit confused and trying not to interfere with what was being channeled. And this is the answer. Queen, an absolute sovereign. I see her sitting on a beautiful throne on top of a mountain. She looks like the winter queen. The place is beautiful but with cold colors. Watch it so that the boy king does not wake up. I do everything in silence. I manage and control everything in silence so that he does not realize that there is someone outside and wants to wake up and live where he is. So, this again comes up as a pretty powerful idea of what is going on inside her according to this material and this question, and the relationship between the feminine and the masculine inside. So the next idea, I'm gonna jump a few of them so I stay on time. The fourth question, and this is another powerful images. The question is channel your inner guide. What does it tell you about the mission? And the answer is I see the eyes of a wolf very close to me, face to face. Suddenly it pounces on me and tears my face apart, my neck and my chest. Scared, I ask who sent it. He tells me to be calm, which is necessary. My fright passes immediately. I see an Indian dancing. I'm sorry. I see my blood run. I feel anguish, not pain. Near me, I see a young man, naked. His body is covered with a vicious fluid. I think by the way of reflection, I feel anguish for that man because he gives me the impression that he is my son. I hear the chain is yes or yes. The wolves disappear. As I am, I approach the man, hug him to revive him, and they come to me, the faces of important men in my life. I clearly identify them, others I don't. There were my faces that passed like bullets. My chest tightens, I want him to leave, because I feel that he is very important to me. What happens to me at that moment is inexplicable. I hug him tighter, I look at him again, and I see his open eyes. It's time. Uh, I'm sorry, it's me. I'm paranoid right now. So I hug him tighter, I look at him again, and I see his open eyes. It's me. I ask the wolf, and they tell me this is the energy I need to carry out my mission. So here it's another, for me, very alchemical image, and usually a shamanic symbolism of dismembering, which usually shows or talks about transformation happening inside her. Uh, and then on the ninth day, I'm going to jump all the way to the ninth day. The question is which of the two relatives do you listen to now, and what should you do about that? And the answer is I visualize both the girl and my great grandfather. They had showed up in one of the answers before, so I'm just skipping through to stay on time. The girl says her name is Alicia. She is easier to remember and write, she indicates. It disturbs me to see them play. I feel a lot of mistrust. The belief that the older men are abusers invades me. I feel disgust. I want to separate Alicia from Horatio. She plays happily with her innocence and he generates a lot of mistrust in me. It makes me want to yell at him. Leave the girl, you old pig. They both know very well what I think, but I watch and they let me watch until Horatio says, don't worry, nothing will happen, it's fine. Your wound is open, the wound you inherited is open. I not only represent your paternal ancestry, but also all energy itself, yourself. To everything that makes you up, I generate distrust because I am the unknown and I represent the evil that has marked your ancestors. Forgive, let go, and heal. Regarding your question, follow your instinct and the parts, reconcile both energies. You are the bridge. Suddenly, I feel that it's time to let go of something that does not belong to me. Part of the story that is not exactly mine, the invisible loyalties. I feel peace. Uh, and another very clear example now of how the male and female energy are getting together, even though in a way she's trying even to repress that and to stop it from happening. And then day number 10, and this is important because I have not asked her about the throne yet. It's day 11, the first time I mentioned the throne on the questions. And the question of day number 10 is channel the message that the giant has for you as you leave the forest. And this is the answer she gets when she goes into trance. From my throne, I ask, why should I leave the forest? The giant replies, because there are other places you can reign as well. You are not only the kingdom of this forest, but of everything that is in you. You need to discover those other places because they wait for you. I get up from the throne and walk forward. I feel mistrust leaving the throne. I don't want someone else to take that place. The giant tells me not to worry because that place belongs to me and no one will take it except myself. Then he takes me and puts me in his hands, lifts me up, and shows me what is outside the forest, above the trees. I see the sea, I see the whale, more forest, mountains, deserts, valleys, rivers, the cosmos. All this is yours. It is waiting to be explored by you. It is waiting for its queen. Seeing the image makes me curious to know what lies beyond the forest. The path is steep, but you have the tools to continue. You are brave and strong. You are the earth, the sun, the air, the rivers, the rocks. You are everything. Trust your intuition. I'm getting ready to go. The giant now looks sad as I let go. He has been very gentle, kind, and affectionate with me. Will I see you again? I ask. Can it be everything? Can it? It can be. I have a misspell there. Can it be? Everything can be. So here, everything turns into a very big situation where she is given the idea of getting or being allowed to get in touch with everything. When I put the giant on the question, what I was thinking about is all the unconscious material we have from our experiences and our families, and mainly everything that goes into the shadow. And then here the giant lifts her up and shows the whole world to her, being the queen of the throne. Uh, and then in question 11, already in the castle, I find myself in a very large room. In the background, I visualize another very illuminated room. I go to it. To my left, I see the statue of a bear standing up with the gesture of roaring and its upper legs ready to claw. The spirit of the bear, they whisper. To my right, I see the statue of a warrior, a Spanish soldier. He has a spear ready to attack or defend himself, but he's not pointing at the bear, but towards the corridor through which I enter. It doesn't matter where you look at it, you are them, the mixture of both clans, the integration of both in you, bear and warrior. It doesn't matter. You reincarnate the strength of both, the ability, dexterity, and intelligence of both. You are them in one. Do not try to separate. You cannot separate what is united in the infinite love of the one being. Go forward, go forward. I walk towards the entrance. The statue that are no longer follow me, and I see that I am on top of the mountain, and I see the immensity of the place. I feel security and peace. So again, we're starting to see images inside her that come up through channeling that talk about getting in touch with somehow the self inside in the way I see it symbolically. Um, do I have time for the next two? Question 12, it says, I see the bear and the warrior. The throne is in the middle of them. I ask the question and the answer. You don't need anything. You know that it belongs to you. This is your place. Then part of the castle begins to transform into the sea. It is night. The place where the throne is, I'm already sitting on it, starts to rise very, very high. I see planets. It is a wonderful feeling and vision. Then I go back to the starting point. The bird tells me to look at the sky, at the stars. They are the ones who will also accompany me, my ancestors. The ancients already say it because it was revealed to them as it is revealed to you today. And in the final question, the answer is I see myself sitting on the throne and the same time in front of it. The me on the throne says to me, untie yourself. What are you trying yourself down for? You can power up whenever you want. Hit the start button whenever you want. What's stopping you now? Look around you. This is all yours. The world is waiting for you. What are you afraid of now? They listen to you. They follow you. You're a leader because you deliver love, kindness, guidance, warmth. So what are you waiting for? The messages have been sent to you long time ago in different ways. It's time to act. Wake up. Lots of souls are waiting for your love, your support. The doors are wide open now. It depends on you. We are here, close to you. You are to queen. You are to reign. Wasn't that what you wanted so much? You are here. Look at me. It's you and you are me. Feel the power. Feel how your heart expands and fills with joy. The room is full of people. I see the giant, my animal's landscape, my other self approaches the throne, and I sit on my other self. We unite. I feel that force. I feel powerful energy. I feel the energy of the I am. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So that's the last of the whole channeling of those sessions. Um, and and to finish all this brings me to three things for the future, with questions about it. The first one is that I see that channeling can be a tool to help the individual investigate and explore their inner world, allowing them to bring a lot of unconscious material into the consciousness into a balanced way. But this needs to be done with someone that knows what is happening and what is doing, so that can be helpful and not generate any kind of inflations, which are probably the main danger of this. Two, use it in the right way can be helpful for an analyst, a way to have more information about the inner world of a patient, but that is something that needs to be further investigated by someone who is more qualified than me in that matter. And the third one is, could this type of work be able to help the individual to balance the collective and conscious material that pushes uncontrollably into their consciousness? And this is something that I'm trying to work a little bit with some students that have had a more powerful, spontaneous experience of channeling, which seems like what Groff will call a spiritual emergency. And we've been trying to, with this same kind of procedure, to help them get a better balance on their lives, and we have so far some interesting results that maybe could be shared in another presentation or lecture in the future. So that's it. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to. I don't know how to stop the sharing. There it is. Okay.
This is some kind of our unconscious level and all these adventures with kids. But let's come back to the questions. I believe probably some people would like to ask the questions or make comments about what you said.
Hands are starting to come up. I don't hear you, Andrew. I think you muted your mic.
Sorry, maybe let's start from Dr. Vicky, Joe, because I will switch off my microphone because my kids are getting in touch with mommy.
Hi, Pablo.
Hi.
I just want to say that presentation was an awful lot of fun. So thank you. It was delightful. I have so many things I feel like I want to share with you, and I wish we were at a real conference and we could go in the book and have a drink together. It's interesting what you're calling channeling. I'm certified as an interactive guided imagery practitioner, and this is exactly the same kind of thing that I do when I'm working with clients as well, and I get the same kind of rich material. Jung did use the word subconscious, but it was earlier. It's more of a Freudian term, and he relinquished it later. He didn't like the word subconscious because it implied lesser than, just as subhuman implies lesser than human, that kind of thing. There's a book I'll recommend to you by Natalie Pillard, P-I-L-A-R-D, and it's, I can't remember the title exactly, but it has intuition in the title. And in there, she identifies what she terms the underconscious, the underconscious, which is a very interesting dimension of the psyche that gets very little notice. I was also noticing just how much of the material that's being generated feels like they are flavors of intuition. I don't know if you've read the aspects of intuition in Jung's book, Psychological Types, but it feels like a lot of what you're talking about come from there. And then related to that, there's a von Franz quote I'll share with you very quickly. She says, "The unconscious in its natural state is not only a source of supreme wisdom, it is also the source of utter nonsense."
Yeah.
So that comes from archetypal patterns in fairy tales. So there's this interesting dance, and I've had it too with clients where I'm talking to a garden glove or a cartoon fish or a dog or what have you. And sometimes there is a lot of wisdom, particularly for the client, not for the world,
Right.
but that client, they need to hear that. But there can also be some nonsense there. And so sort of sifting through those dimensions can be very challenging. So anyway, I just wanted to share a few of those things with you. And again, thank you for a delightful and wonderful romp through mythology and the mythical aspects of psyche.
Thank you. I appreciate all the leads to go on and investigate a little bit more. That helps a lot. The way I see challenge, one of the aspects that the Institute of Noetic Sciences has been working on is that they said Dr. Elane Wabe, which she's the one that has been researching the field in the scientific term, is that there's different levels of trance into the channeling. Some of them are more close to intuition, some of them are deeper. This one, in this case, is not as deep as some others, where you just go almost completely unconscious into what is going through. This one is a little bit on the middle level of it in the connection. So in that part, what we have seen is that more nonsense come, the closer you are to that intuitive part and not as deep into the trance. So
Interesting.
so yes, there is a lot of nonsense that can come up, and one I have seen in that regards is that as much as nonsense it is, there is something that comes up in between that has some sort of energy that is important for the person to pick up, and like you said, it's important for them, not for the world, and that's like a very big misunderstanding about channeling, that people that start to do it usually think that they have to give the message to everyone, and it's them that they need to work on first.
Yeah, I'm going to give you one other resource, by the way, because it comes up for me. People talk a lot about Robert Moore's work with the 4 archetypes. He actually comes after Tony Wolfe. Tony Wolfe wrote a paper called The Feminine Structure of Consciousness. She has a typology of her own, unlike Jung's, and it starts with women's relationships. So I might suggest you look there. She identifies 4 archetypes, archetypal relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And then Whitmont took her work and relates it to a male consciousness. So there's a whole bunch of things that predate Robert Moore's
Right.
work.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Vicky. And now I see the hands risen from the side of Ilona or Patricia, am I right? Yes, please.
Yes, we both want to ask
Yes, please.
Pablo. So maybe first, Patricia. Thanks. I would like to ask about the ways for coming into the trance.
Okay.
Maybe you can say which one you are thinking are the best, or maybe you have some many experience. I'm interested.
The way I was taught and the way I teach it is it's with an eye movement. You start with an eye movement downwards for a few seconds until you feel like there is some sort of change in perception, and this is what needs to be trained, like slowly getting in touch with that. then a night movement to the front where you see everything, and you focus on a point, but then you feel like your vision expands to the sides, and once that happens, you move the eyes up and keep them there up for a while. And some people get into the trance easier than others, and the ones that get easier there, their eyes will start like jumping pretty quickly, and feel very natural to go into there, with even with the eye muscle a little bit stretching at first. And that we do it at the same time we're doing a sort of meditation exercise of focusing on the heart with it's a Tibetan practice called Tonglen, which is you focus on the heart, like only moving energy there. Like when you breathe in, energy goes in, you breathe out, energy goes out, and you do that at the same time while you focus your eyes to the top, and then you ask the question, and then you let the question go into the heart somehow. That produces the trance and the movement of energy somehow to get into the trance and to try to stay there. At first, that feels, many people feel it like if it was a panic attack the first times, because the heart starts pumping pretty quickly when you move the eyes up. It's like the ego starts thinking that it's going to be put aside for a while. So once you're able to go through that threshold, then you can actually start to stay there and feel it like it's a normal situation, and then you can start getting in touch with receiving the information from the other side um, without much interference, I would say. But that's the process that I teach, that usually takes a while to be able to get there. It's not instantaneous, and you need practice every day a little bit to get into that. So it's not something that you can just do in a day or a couple of hours. You actually need to practice a lot to get there. So
Okay. One time, 1 year ago, I had a chance to participate in the dance project about the trance in the dance. And we were practicing, like, for example, circulating in one direction for a long time. And many people experiencing this very quickly. After 2 or 3 days, people started to see images, feelings were coming. So I was surprised that it can be so quickly.
Well, you can get into there quickly. The thing for me at least is that how you are managed, or how do you manage to stay there for a while without disconnecting and sustaining that experience, which has been correlated with theta waves in the brain by some researchers, and how you can actually, when you stay there, are able to deliver material that you can work on later. Because one of the things that usually happen is that you can get into the trance, but you later need to remember what is going or what went on during the trance to report it. So then when you try to report it, your mind comes in, your conscious mind comes in, and your ego start to shape things the way that they want to be shaped, so everything stays the same, you know. There's kind of like what Dr. Vicky said yesterday about the iconoclasm, you know, it starts happening inside because it's like an editing process when you remember. So the way we do it is that we're able to get information and words at least, or a drawing or something while you are in the trance. So then you have a lot less of that editing going on from the person.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question because it is also connected with that problem of images. I feel or I see that you are as a translator from language to language, from a language of images. Is it difficult to understand it for you in practice?
For me not, but it depends. For me there are three kinds of channeling that occurs, and how you get the material out. Some people get feelings on the or sensations in their body, so they kind of stick to that. Some people get images, and other people just get ideas. The further you develop, you start feeling the three of them all together. But when you usually start by one of those streets and one of those paths, and then you become like all together. Most people go into images. I usually from the start got into ideas and then went into images. So
In your examples, we saw plenty of images connected with narration,
yes,
fairy tale narration. I thought that images are privileged here.
yes, because most of the people go into it through images in the first time. So these students, that's the way she got in touch with it. So it's kind of a mix what is going on there, and like I said, she's not in a complete trance state. It's like somewhere in between, where is some consciousness still of what is going on. The further you go deeper, the less you hear what your ego is commentating about it, and you're able to come back later. It's in some sort of the way what Edinger says in the Archetype and Ego about the ego self axis, where at first you think that you need to move from one to the other, and later it's like a revolving idea of getting in touch with one or the other at the same time. So in the example, she is in very early stages of getting into a connection. She had only been practicing for 3 months when this happened to her in that way. But I chose it because the images were stronger and the symbolism was stronger than others to be able to show it at the lecture.
So I also think that images are the most powerful here.
Yeah, yes, no, I see, yes. I agree with you, yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any more questions? Any comments? Yes, please, Scott.
Well, I really appreciated your bringing Jung's work into your work with channeling. I just think that was a wonderful move of seeing channeling as a form of active imagination, or at least drawing on the parallels. I don't know if you saw my first talk yesterday, but I work with psychedelic experiences, and I'm always skeptical when people claim that their psychedelic experiences put them into contact with extraterrestrial beings or whatever. And I'm not saying I have the answer. I'm agnostic, but I always feel that people would perhaps be a little more cautious about jumping to that conclusion if they were aware of Jung's concept of the collective unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm very appreciative of your doing that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I completely agree. And when I started teaching, one of the things that I saw is that a lot of people on the New Age circle goes into trying to get into quantum ideas or extraterrestrials or spiritual mannerisms to get into understanding how this works. And I was led to Jung's work somehow. I say by my guide, and to start reading it, and it made a lot of sense. And the more I read, the more sense it makes, and on merging somehow and explaining things through that. And also what I saw is that a lot of Jungian terms in the mainstream or in the cultural work are there. People don't really understand the whole depth of them, but they are there, so they are available for people to try to grasp them and understand better a lot of things. If there was a way to put them together. So this is what I'm trying to weave together somehow, and bring it in that way. And that's why I submitted myself to to be able to present here, because I wanted to put it in a more formal perspective somehow, you know.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
I'll
you.
just add that I also appreciated your bringing Groff into your work. Groff's work was very important to my own, and in my book, I use Groff as a kind of mediator between Jungian psychology and psychedelic experience. So it was fun to see you draw on Groff too.
Yeah, I noticed you quoted him yesterday on your presentation. Yes.
Oh, did I? Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thanks again.
No, I've been learning a lot from you. All the presentations have something that I will pick up, and I will enrich my work as well with those, because it's been very enlightening and tiring but enlightening because of the hours.
I feel the same. I feel the same.
Any more questions or comments? Then may I add eventually a few things about you mentioned, from Jungian perspective, I would say that what you are doing with channeling is like creating an archetypal pattern of deepening of the contact with the unconscious psyche. But what is interesting, and one topic is about set and setting, and it refers to psychedelics, for example, or with Grotowski. And what you said about dancing and, for example, how to make that gradual or safe or something. Yeah, we may say a lot of things. For example, I can tell you that for example, Grotowski's actor Ryszard Cieślak, he was called the complete actor, as like the icon, the actor which was absolutely like you know, the completely fulfilled, and he was an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to Grotowski's co-worker and about this topic of using alcohol after the spectacles, and she said that, you know, Andrew, because there was so much energy and there was no way to channelize it, and they were going straight after the spectacle to the pub.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that, I think this is because when you said, like, for example, that's why Jungian, your work is like Jungian in the core of archetypal, and you know, another topic I want to mention is this, you know, this ghosts or spirits or unconscious. I call it, let's say, unconscious subjects which are in the psyche, and they are personalized. There is personification of this subject. What is interesting to me is that it looks like in our psyche are other subjects who can talk, and they have their own way of thinking and commenting. You know,
right.
It's really unbelievable. But to end, I'd like to really thank you for your lecture, and I'm really waiting for the paper. We message for everyone. We are going to make a book after the conference, and we will be really delighted if you could prepare your complete paper. You don't have to cut the parts in your paper, and everyone can read it. If you want to add some elements from Jungian, etc. perspective, but it's gonna be very interesting description of the archetypal pattern of getting into the unconscious. Thank you very much. If there's no other, thank you, Pablo.
Thank you.
If we have no other questions, then maybe we can come to Scott's last presentation, and the person who's going to turn it on and share. Bear with me.
Dr. Vijay, I think, has another question.
Yes, please.
If you give me, I think there are at least two people here that didn't hear my first talk yesterday. So, and this is relatively short. It's 28 minutes long. So I'll just take a few minutes to